My name is Emily Carter, and I live in a small town in North Carolina, USA. I'm 30 years old now, but this story began when I was 26, when I lost everything I loved, and then, slowly, love came back into my life in a way I never expected. 4 years ago, I was married to Michael, my college sweetheart. We had been together since we were 18. He was kind, funny, and always made me feel safe. We lived in a small white house with a garden full of yellow flowers. Life was simple and beautiful. But one rainy evening, Michael was driving home from work. The roads were slippery, and another car hit his. He didn't make it. When the police came to my door that night, my world stopped. I felt like someone had turned off all the lights in my life. For months, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't even smile. The house was silent, too silent. His clothes were still in the closet, his coffee mug still on the kitchen counter. People said time will heal you, but time didn't heal anything. It only made the pain quieter, not smaller. After Michael's death, I left my job for a while. I worked as a teacher before, but I couldn't face a classroom full of cheerful children when I was so broken inside. My parents lived in another state, and I didn't want them to worry, so I pretended to be fine whenever we talked on the phone. But I wasn't fine. Most days, I just sat in the garden and watched the flowers bloom and die. It felt like my life, full of color once, now fading. One morning, my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, an older woman with silver hair, knocked on my door. She said kindly, "Emily, you need to go out. Come with me to the community center tomorrow. They need volunteers to teach art to children." I wanted to say no, but she smiled so warmly that I couldn't refuse. That small yes changed everything. The next day, I walked into the small community center. Children were laughing, painting, and playing. Their happiness felt strange to me, like sunshine after a long storm. A man was helping them set up easels. He turned when he saw me and smiled. "Hi, you must be Emily," he said. "I'm Daniel. I manage the art classes here." He was around my age, tall, with kind eyes and paint on his hands. He looked gentle. I nodded. "Hi, Mrs. Jenkins told me you needed help." He grinned. "Yes, we always need help. The kids are a handful." The children ran around, laughing, and I couldn't help but smile. A small, forgotten smile. Daniel noticed. "See, you already fit in." Over the next few weeks, I started going there every afternoon. I taught children how to mix colors, draw trees, and paint sunsets. Daniel and I worked side by side. He was funny and calm. When a child spilled paint on his shirt, he just laughed and said, "Art is messy, just like life." One day, he asked softly, "You don't talk much about yourself, do you?" I looked down. "There's not much to say." He smiled gently. "That's okay. When you're ready, I'll listen." He didn't ask again. He just stayed, quietly, kindly, like a soft light in the corner of a dark room. A few months later, I felt comfortable enough to ask him, "Why do you work here? You could be an artist in a big city." He looked thoughtful. I was once. I worked in New York. I painted for galleries. But then my little sister got sick, cancer. I came back home to help her. His voice broke a little. She passed away 3 years ago. I looked at him, surprised. I'm sorry. He nodded slowly. Thanks. It hurt a lot. But helping these kids makes me feel close to her. Again, for the first time, I realized we both carried pain. Different, but deep. Maybe that's why I felt safe with him. He understood silence. As weeks passed, Daniel became my friend, my first real friend in years. We had coffee after classes, walked by the lake, and sometimes painted together in the evenings. One evening, we were sitting in the garden behind the center, watching the sunset. He said, "You know, I like sunsets more than sunrises." "Why?" I asked. "Because sunsets mean you survived another day." That line stayed in my heart. I looked at him and realized I was beginning to care for him, but I also felt guilty. Loving someone else felt like betraying Michael. That night, I cried quietly, confused and scared. A few days later, I found an old letter from Michael inside one of his books. It was written just a month before his accident. "My dearest Emily, if something ever happens to me, I want you to keep living. Don't shut the door on love. You deserve laughter, sunshine, and someone who makes you smile again. Promise me you won't stop living just because I'm gone. Love always, Michael." I sat there, crying for hours. It felt like he was giving me permission to be happy again. That night, I whispered, "Thank you, Michael," and looked up at the stars. One afternoon, it started raining heavily. I was stuck at the center, and Daniel offered me a ride home. The car was worn, and the sound of rain filled the silence. He said softly, "I know what it's like to lose someone. You don't ever stop missing them. But one day, you start breathing again." I looked at him, and tears filled my eyes. He pulled over and handed me a tissue. "Hey, it's okay," he said gently. I whispered, "I thought I could never feel anything again." He smiled sadly. "Maybe you're starting to." Something changed in that car. I didn't say anything more, but my heart felt lighter, like a window opening after years of being closed. A few months later, the center planned an art exhibition. The children's paintings would be displayed, and Daniel wanted me to join too. "Ugh, I can't," I said. "I haven't painted in years." He looked at me and said, "Then start now. Paint what you feel." So I did. I painted every night. Colors, tears, memories. I painted a sunset with two silhouettes, one fading, one new, both holding hands under an orange sky. At the exhibition, my painting caught everyone's attention. A woman asked, "What's it called?" I said, softly, "When Love Came Again." Daniel smiled when he heard that. "Beautiful," he whispered. That night, after the exhibition, we stood outside under the stars. The air was cool, and the town lights sparkled below. Daniel looked at me and said, "Emily, I don't know if this is the right time, but I need to tell you something." My heart beat fast. He continued, I like you not because I want to replace what you lost, but because I see who you are now. You're strong, kind, and alive. Tears filled my eyes again. I'm scared, I said, honestly. I don't know if I can love again. He took my hand gently. Then don't rush. I'll wait. Sometimes love doesn't ask for much, just a chance. I didn't say anything, but I didn't pull my hand away either. And that was my answer. Months passed, and we became closer. We went for morning walks, cooked simple dinners, and laughed more than I ever thought possible. He never rushed me. He never compared himself to Michael. He just stayed, steady and kind. One day, while painting together, Daniel looked at my canvas and said, You use so much orange now. I smiled. Because orange is the color of hope. He laughed softly. That's my favorite color now. That moment, I realized I had kept my promise to Michael. I was living again. On the anniversary of Michael's death, I went to the cemetery. Daniel came with me but waited quietly in the car. I placed white lilies on the grave and whispered, I miss you, but I'm okay now. You told me to live, and I am. I closed my eyes and felt peace for the first time in 4 years. When I returned to the car, Daniel didn't say anything. He just held my hand, and that was enough. A year later, Daniel and I moved into a small house together, not far from the community center. The garden is full of yellow and orange flowers. Sometimes I still talk to Michael in my heart, and I know he would smile if he saw me now. Daniel often teases me when I paint for hours. You and your sunsets, he laughs. And I always reply because sunsets mean we survived another day. Life is not perfect. There are still days when I miss the past. But there are more days now when I wake up smiling. Daniel once said, Love doesn't erase pain. It grows around it, like flowers growing around stones. He was right. My love for Michael will always be there. But my heart has grown big enough to hold new love too. When I look at Daniel, I see not a replacement, but a gift. Proof that love can return when you least expect it. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky orange and pink, Daniel turned to me and said, Do you ever think about how far you've come? I smiled. Every day. I thought my story ended 4 years ago. But then love came again. He wrapped his arms around me. And this time, it's here to stay. As the sky turned dark, I looked at the horizon, full of colors, full of hope, and whispered softly to myself, Thank you for coming back, love. And that was the beginning of the rest of my life.